Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Biohazard 2 Real Survival. In the last episode, Claire managed to reach the second floor of the precinct and search through the STARS office to find the whereabouts of her missing brother, Chris Redfield, who is fighting a battle of his own, having travelled to Europe with the remaining surviving STARS members to face off against the corporate might of Umbrella on their own terms. She also found some information sent to Chris via Jack Hamilton, a personal contact, which revealed some very disturbing information about the Chief of Police, Brian Irons, which certainly fills in a lot of the gaps in the investigation of the Arklay murders and the mansion incident. And so it continues. There is nothing else in that the facts has to offer us, so without further ado, let us depart from the STARS office. Now, when that fax appears, or prints out, it is actually very easy to immediately walk through the door, and you have to walk back in, which is fairly embarrassing, but fortunately I didn't do that this time. But more importantly, we have the unicorn medal immediately, which was somehow concealed under Chris's diary. But now we can use it on the statue. But we do have an obstacle in our way, the creature known as the Licker. And even though getting rid of it will certainly help our progress, it stands to reason that there is more than one such Licker lurking about. But we do have the means to deal with the Licker, the grenade launcher. But before we do that, I should examine the film that was hidden in Wesker's desk, despite the fact that it was had already been previously searched and ransacked by persons unknown. I can't tell what's on the film until I develop it, not development, which means we basically have to go back to the basically any film that we find has to be developed in the dark room, which is very straightforward enough. Since I don't have any items in that item box at the moment, I don't have to worry about item management. The film is labeled Recruit, and it appears to be a photo of none other than rookie Bravo Team STARS member Rebecca Chambers in an RPD girls basketball uniform, sitting somewhere in the outskirts. So either she's inside Raccoon City or she's sitting somewhere in the outskirts. It's very hard to tell where she is, but it looks like it might be the outer edge of it could very well be the Raccoon Forest, which lies at the edge of the Arklay Mountains. But people have been saying that it's very odd that Wesker would have, why would Albert Wesker have a photo of Rebecca Chambers in an RPD basketball uniform on his desk? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. They think this while completely neglecting Rebecca's character background, because like Kenneth Sullivan, she specializes in biology, and more specifically, virology. That's very hard to say. Yeah, virology. There we go. I've stopped saying it now. But, yes. biology and viruses, and chemicals as well, like her late companion Kenneth. Something else to mention as well, Rebecca, for her youth and her lack of experience in law enforcement matters and her young age, is actually very driven as a scientist. Perhaps almost as driven as Albert Wesker himself, although unlike Wesker, Rebecca Chambers has a moral compass. And some people have they've exhibited some distaste over the second novel in the S.D. Perry series, which is an original novel of her own creation titled Caliban Cove, which completely changes the dynamic of the original Biohazard, because in the original Biohazard, Rebecca was a supporting character, and the portrayal of her led her to being seen as the most useless, annoying character on the planet, let alone in Biohazard. But in reality, her scientific talents are incredibly invaluable, and they pretty much state in no small terms that Rebecca in Caliban Cove is essentially the one person who actually can understand what the T-virus is, how it works, and given the opportunity, she might even be able to understand what the G-virus is capable of, which is something that we actually don't know yet, although given the fact that it was manufactured by Umbrella, we can be certain that it's designed to create enhanced genetically engineered mutants, or something such. But yeah, that was Rebecca Chambers' character background. Film D has been filed, or the Film D has been filed. And believe it or not, during my own high school years, at the age of 15, I too was incredibly interested in science, and I was actually pretty good at it as well. I mean, I did fairly competently with physics and chemistry, but I was incredibly interested in biology myself. Although as time went on, I kind of moved away from the field of science altogether. Now all we have to do is get by the liquor and backtrack to... Oh! Hands! Jump scare there by... yeah, that barricade is... yeah. It's a good thing that barricade held. And I don't think we took any damage from those zombies there. Oh look, more hands! Hands! The barricade, which is made from very sturdy planks of wood, it has to be said, has done a fairly good job of keeping the zombies at bay. And before I enter this room, it's a good idea to ready the trusty grenade launcher, because I'm not fighting the liquor with handgun bullets. There is a herb over there. I'm going to be, before I grab it, I'm going to deal with the liquor as quickly as possible. You took 3 shots. Normally, it is possible to hit him on the roof, but I was just a little too close there. So he dropped down, and as a result I ended up wasting a... well, I think the damage actually varies. It takes roughly 2 or 3 grenade rounds to actually deal with the liquor. But I will now take this green herb for my trouble. And I actually do like the portrait of the herb, the slightly realistic aspect of it, compared with the way that it looks in the original Biohazard, although the actual inventory model was still relatively unchanged. But that was one threat down, but there will be more liquors. Because as David Ford said in his report, the number of liquors is currently unknown. But if they're anything like hunters, and they most certainly are, there will be more than one of them. Just letting the ambience soak in there for a moment. Now we get the chiming melodies of the main hall, which is just as iconic as the theme from the main hall in the original Biohazard. We've brought back the unicorn back to the Stone Maiden. And as our reward, we get a key. Even though Claire technically could, there is a running joke that Claire could have actually taken that key from the statue, but there was no way of her actually knowing that there was even anything in there. But our reward is the precinct key, first of several, because this right here is the spade key, which we'd know that if we examined it closely, but I can tell. And when one examines certain items, the item description changes to reflect that fact, but should probably, well, we can hightail it over to the, back over to the other side, but realistically speaking, you know, from a video game perspective, it's faster to run. It's faster to traverse by running. I'm having trouble talking. But in reality, you wouldn't actually be running constantly through a through an open corridor. But that's one spade key door that is now unlocked. It appears to be a an office room of some kind with tons of files. I wonder if we'll find anything of use or anything noteworthy in these documents. And it appears that Clara has managed to find something of note. A patrol report. Patrol report. September 20th, 9:30 p.m. Reporter Sergeant Neil Carlson. We received a report of a suspicious individual skulking around the sewers in the outskirts of Raccoon City. I searched the area and located the individual, but he ran away before I was able to question him. I recovered the following items: a small amount of C4 plastic explosive, an electronic detonator, 9x19 parabellum rounds, and an infrared scope. Broken, unfortunately. End of report. It's always nice to have a fresh cup of coffee during a survival horror let's play. But seems that this report was written before everything went down in Raccoon City. A suspicious individual. But the most important thing to note are those files that Sergeant Carlson has appropriated. Most likely there'll be an evidence locker being stored away by the RPD. And there appears to be a copy machine over here. Those are still surprisingly in use 20 years later. There doesn't appear to be anything in there, but maybe there's a useful item in the storage locker here, or the storage cupboard. Well, we take the ink ribbon. I probably should have put that first aid spray in the item box, to be honest. You know what? I think I'll do that just to use up some time. As soon as Claire can get out the door, I'll run over to the item box and running through the pool of blood. How very sanitary of you, Claire. Actually, no. Why am I going back to the dark room when I can just go back to the other item box? That will definitely save a lot of time and effort. So back through the pool of blood we go. Not actually a good idea to run through a pool of blood at full pelt because you can actually slip and hurt yourself. Not to mention landing in the pool of somebody else's blood is probably unhealthy. Especially given the fact that the T-virus has been affecting people. I have to remember to bring this item back from the item box. But I think I'll take the ink ribbons with me just for now. The ink ribbons will definitely be useful. Just keep an item slot open just in case. But the other item, any other items that I get, I will be putting into the dark room save room, just in case. Similar to the mansion, I think the police station is fairly centralized in terms of its layout, even if it is just as convoluted as the mansion. Files on various cases, none appear to be useful. Well, there was the Arklay murders, the mansion incident, and now this going on. Don't you think there would actually be some relevant information amongst these documents? And these are visual materials that we don't need. Also looks like some weird step ladder that we can actually push over there. Pile of investigation reports. Well, there is something on the on top of that filing case. But we can actually use this conveniently placed storage step ladder to actually obtain. It looks fairly familiar. Indeed it is. It's the crank. And I believe that judging from the photo of the crank, it is indeed a square crank, or a square-ended crank I should say. Doesn't appear to be anything in those files at all, but if we examine this again, Raccoon City data files, mostly on Umbrella Incorporated. Well, these could either be just general corporate information that the Raccoon City Police have on the Umbrella Corporation, but one would actually wonder that, well, one might ask, why doesn't the Raccoon City Police Department do something about Umbrella? And then you realize, well, their chief of police is Brian Irons. Yeah. Once again, Umbrella's considerable influence, of which they have plenty throughout the entire city, given the fact that they're actually responsible for the development of many businesses and locales here in Raccoon City. Yeah, I will say again, running through a corridor may be convenient in video game logic, but I wouldn't recommend doing it in reality. Running in a confined space is not advised. But I think I will store the ink ribbon and the crank for the time being in the dark room item box. And of course, to make doubly sure that I don't cheat, I'll store them separately, just in case. I will keep the herbs on me, and I should probably switch back to the Browning, just in case. And the only thing left to do is unlock that other spade door, which is the only way we're going to progress. And Should be smooth sailing from here. But that being said, there are probably other rooms that we're going to have to deal with certain enemies, so such as the room that we're trying to get to.
Help me!
And speaking of children in the police station, that was a child. And there was a zombie there, a zombie police officer, who was trying to play possum and failed. Now, you're gonna hate me for this, but again, real survival stipulations means no reloading in the menu, with the exception of the grenade launcher because of the way certain rounds work. So 3, 2, 1. Manual reload. I know I could have used those bullets in better terms, but again, real survival. But the door was locked, and yet the child has managed to escape. That is because of this conveniently placed ventilation shaft, and now we finally see the significance of Claire's observation there. But of course we can get through because we now have the spade key. And again, video game logic. Biohazard conveniently tells us that the key is now useless, and we can now get rid of it from our inventory. But what lieth on the other side of the door in question? Will it be the little girl? There's only one way to find out. In we go.
Leon!
Claire, you made it!
Yeah. Have you seen a little girl around here?
Yeah, you just missed her. Who is she?
I don't know. But it's too dangerous for her to stay here alone. Leon, I'll go look for her. You go and find us a way out of here.
Of course. But before I forget, here's a radio. That way we can keep in touch if something comes up.
And so the twain shall meet. Leon Scott Kennedy, your sight for sore eyes. Of course, if we talk to him
I'll
again...
go look for her. You go and find us a way out of here.
So, together again. And I do love this theme that is playing in the Claire A, Leon B scenario, which I believe is titled Hope Against Hope. I think in Leon's A scenario, a different theme plays, which is Leon meets Claire, or something to that effect, which is more light-hearted and has a bit more of a hopeful feeling to it. But this theme is actually more fitting in my personal opinion. This melody right here. That melody right there is very fitting of Biohazard 2. It signifies that even though Leon and Claire are finally reunited, their ordeal is far from over. They still have a long, long road ahead of them if they are to survive Raccoon City. Fortunately, Claire and Leon can now talk to each other via walkie-talkie, although in a very similar manner to Richard's radio in the original Biohazard, but we can't actually use the radio in question at any given moment, so it will definitely only be used in circumstances by Claire and Leon themselves. It's not an in-game, it doesn't have any actual game elements to it. But we now have something else to worry about. The child in question, who has managed to disappear, ran past Leon, and there there are two ways that the child could have gone. The door over there, in this corridor, but Leon came from down the hallway, so it's most likely that she came down here. The door is nailed shut. It doesn't look like I can pass through here, but there is one way in which someone can pass through here, because if you remember, you observe the bottom of the door here. It is slightly broken. Too large for us to fit through, but small enough for a child like the girl in question to crawl under, because this door is actually the door that we saw by the statues. But unfortunately we can't just pass through this door, because that would actually make this an incredibly convenient side cut through the stars corridor. So we have to find the long way, and there is well, there are some more bullets there. We're actually doing pretty well for ammunition thus far, but once we leave the room, Leon will be gone on his own mission. None of this information looks useful. That's very unfortunate, and this appears to be a police waiting room, probably for the stars or whatnot. And there is a vending machine over here that, interestingly enough, has a slightly altered version of the what can clearly be seen or as being reminiscent of the real-world trademark Coca-Cola logo, although it's called Coca-Sola or no, what am I talking about? Coca-Soda or Cola Soda, something like that. But I believe in later releases of Biohazard 2, this was changed to the regular coffee machine that we saw downstairs in the police meeting room. And there was one, before we move on to the next area, we should have a look around, see what else is in store. Doesn't appear to be anything on there, but there is a disc here. We know what that means. It's lock-picking time. Looks like Claire Redfield is a rival for the Master of Unlocking title currently held by Jill Valentine. Will we take the flame rounds? Yes, we shall. It is never a good idea to say no to flame rounds. And of course, we could have already told that for ourselves. Now it is time to part ways with Leon once more, and to enter a room that has always been fairly ominous to me, the library of the police station. This room, I don't know about it, and the melody definitely makes me feel like it's not safe here. But there is something conveniently hidden within the vase here by the door, which is our very first red herb. I should probably examine the green herb. Special herbs that grow in the Raccoon City region. So it seems that Claire knows something about of the herbs that grow in Raccoon City. So Chris finally learns something, and we get the same description for the red herbs. And if we mix the two together, we get a mixture of one green and one red herb. But lo and behold, the equivalent of the first aid spray. We want to preserve that as much as possible. And I've been I enjoy libraries. I enjoy reading books. I grew up reading books when I was a kid. 20 years ago in 1998. But this library, something about it just still doesn't sit right with me. It's too ominous, in my opinion. It just unsettles me completely. None of these books appear to be useful. Any of these shelves. I wonder if there's something over here. More company data files, primarily on Umbrella Incorporated. So the RPD were keeping some tabs on the Umbrella Corporation to some extent. And more useless books. And you may have noticed that there are a bunch of shelves over here that appear to be on some sort of track, but one of them is blocking this area. But there are some stairs leading to another level, so shall go up here and do some more exploring. Many books on this shelf are about chemistry. If only we had Rebecca or Kenneth with us, they might make more sense of this than we ever could. There appear to be a lot of chemistry books, and there is a door over here, but I'm going to continue searching the library first. I know this room is ominous and there are no enemies in here, but well, I know let me reverse that statement. I know there are no enemies in this room, but this room I still don't feel safe in. But it appears to me that there's a bit of the balcony above that alcove area that is appears to be missing, so perhaps we can go ahead and jump down there. Okay, that wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but it works. It was definitely a bit sudden. And more things blocking the other entrance. But we are here now. But fortunately it seems that we are trapped, although there is a button that's glowing right there, which happens to have a lot of, which seems to have some power going to it. There's a bronze plate with a picture on it, which appears to be some kind of Roman gladiator. And appears to be a depiction of the shelves in question in a certain configuration. But how do we get out of here? Well, it's actually fairly straightforward. Power to switch to the shelf. Or you push it? Yes. And we are now, that's basically how we get out of there. Pretty straightforward. Now, what we have to do, because there's the portrait of that same Roman gladiator, we have to assemble the shelves in the same order as the miniature version. A switch to slide the shelf left and right. Will you push it? Left or right? Push this one right, and we'll push this one right. And lo and behold, puzzle solved. It might, well, to be fair, some people might actually take a little while to solve this puzzle, but if you use memorization, it's fairly straightforward. And the fourth shelf doesn't have a button on it and cannot be moved except, well, because the button for this shelf is the one that we press to get out of there. And all the other shelves have buttons on them. But that was one of the many puzzles in Biohazard 2, and that is actually somewhat of a downgrade from the original Biohazard. As cryptic as and as obscure as some of the puzzles were in the original Biohazard, some of them were fairly ingenious in and of their own right. Again, I keep saying minor spoilers, but minor spoilers for those of you who have never seen this game before in your lives. The puzzles in Biohazard 2 do not hold a candle to the puzzles of the original Biohazard. But there is something contained within this compartment. Will we take the Serpent Stone? That we will. Let's just give it a closer examination. A 6-inch stone with a snake etched on the side. Well, I believe that's all we can do in the library for now. But, so I guess the only way out is, well, our first way out is through this door. Which could lead us somewhere very useful. Indeed it does. It leads us to the second floor, and lo and behold, there are zombies. And that one is deceased, and oh, that one is not. Oh, and zombies now can do that. Zombies can lunge at you. I want to run away as quickly as possible. And get some distance and fire away as crazily as possible. Wasted a bullet there, but I don't care. But we are on the second floor balcony, and like the dining room, when we're down on the floor below, we cannot see any zombies up there due to the limitations. But cool trick here, we can actually deal with that zombie from here. Oh, and I wasted another bullet there. And there is a pool of blood under you, so you are dead. But you are going to be lurching around that corner. And I wasted 2 of those 3 bullets there, but get down, good sir. I'll wait for you to get up. And don't waste the bullet again. And there isn't any sound of shuffling footsteps now. So we should probably use this emergency ladder that we saw earlier. And down it descends. Down, down, down it goes. Which basically means we can actually now make our way down to the back down to the first floor from here. Good to know. But before we do that, I am actually going to do a sweep of the rest of this balcony area. And there, well, doesn't appear to be anything else at the present, but there is a door at the end of the other side of the balcony. So I suppose that's where we'll be going through next. Doing quite well so far, but don't expect it to last as this Let's Play adventure goes on. And there is something shining on the chair there in this room. A lighter. Yes, we will take that lighter. An oil lighter. And it seems to I would imagine that it's still usable. A magazine rack. None of these books look useful. But lo and behold, our third item box. Item box number 3. And I think I shall place these 2 items here for the time being. For temporarily, of course. but there appears to be something on this desk here, which may be another file. And so it is, the Secretary's Diary A, which probably means that there's another diary somewhere around the precinct. April 6th. I accidentally moved one of the stone statues on the second floor when I leaned against it. When the chief found out about it, he was furious. I swear the guy nearly bit my head off, screaming at me never to touch the statue again. If it's so important, then maybe you shouldn't have put it out in the open like that. April 7th. I heard that all the art pieces from the chief's collection are rare items, literally worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know which is the bigger mystery, where he finds those tacky things, or where he's getting the money to pay for them. May 10th. I wasn't surprised to see the chief come in today with yet another large picture frame in his hands. This time it was a really disturbing painting depicting a nude person being hanged. I was appalled by the expression on the chief's face as he leered at that painting. Why someone would consider anything like that to be a work of art is beyond my comprehension. The Secretary Diary's A, or rather the Secretary's Diary A has been filed. But, yeah. It seems that Iron's personal secretary is more than a little creeped out by his behavior. But, he is being bribed by the Umbrella Corporation. But, I actually think I'm actually going to go and, put the lighter back into, Claire's inventory. While not breaking the, real survival stipulations. Because, there were two things about, that Secretary's Diary that were very useful. One, noting the statue that, or statues I should say, that we already encountered before in the western side of the precinct, not the mansion. Don't get your buildings confused, DM. The movable statues, which the Secretary accidentally moved without meaning to, which drew ire from Irons, who was apparently quite livid. But second of all, that nude painting of a man... Well, nude painting? The painting of a nude man being hanged, which we encountered before with the rather eerie title, A Sacrifice to the Hellfire. So the statue and the statues, I should say, two of them, and the painting are in fact, seem to be linked together. Two puzzles linking to a third, it would seem. And, conveniently, there's another set of ink ribbons here. Actually, doing very, plentiful, for the moment. Now, it is coming up to the quarter of an hour mark here again. So, this has actually been a fairly, well, I will say fairly slow in terms of action, but we have actually been making some amount of progress so far in this LP. Enjoy these quiet moments while we can, adventurers, because I will tell you now, they won't last. So, I shall conveniently save this all-important typewriter. The third save of the Let's Play. Maybe 3 saves thus far, but I won't be saving manically. I will be conserving those ink ribbons as best I can. Once we actually start finally making some real progress in the precinct. But, actually, you know what, I'll just hold on to the ink ribbons for now, and, because I just saved, and, when we return, adventurers, we shall, well, we shall dump any, well, I say dump, we shall, put away the ink ribbons, and, well, continue our exploration of the Raccoon Police Department precinct. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.